So good morning and good afternoon if you're joining us from the East. Welcome to Tackle Tuesdays. Tackle Tuesdays is a webcast series that explores and examines different topics and issues in organizational behavior and culture. So far, some of the topics we have covered is reopening strategies through COVID and each phase of COVID. Emotional intelligence and occupational health and safety. Last week, we focused on how to have courageous conversations with people in your workplace, especially as a leader. And today's focus is on really trying to lead through COVID-19. Meetings. When does a manager get any work done? So my name is Lydia Pagonis. I am your host for this webcast series. I am the owner of Sinogap Solutions, a leadership consulting firm. And what we do there is we partner with organizations in designing employee engagement and leadership development strategies that contribute to a company's ability to continually grow and achieve its mission. So with what we're going to be focusing on today, and one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on this topic today is because with the shift to remote work, our meetings that we have with our teams and our colleagues have also shifted to a virtual format. And this has created a need for managers and leaders to schedule multiple meetings, virtual meetings per day, just to be able to stay connected with what's going on in their organization and to maintain connections and relationships with their teams on top of ever shifting demands. So with so many meetings to attend, how does anybody get any work done? And so my guest today is Lydia Pagonis. She is a manager of administration policy at Industrial Alliance Financial Group. She is a dynamic and passionate leader with over 10 years of leadership experience in the financial industry. And her strengths are really in motivating individuals by playing to their strengths, along with being able to communicate with them in a way that allows to create open, honest relationships with the members of her team, which in turn then fosters an environment where trust and engagement is allowed to flourish. And so, yes, we do share the same last name. Lydia Pagonis is my sister. And one of the reasons why I've asked her to be on today's show is because a year ago, actually, Lydia, you've contributed to the birth of this webcast in many ways. A year ago, we were sitting and talking about some of the challenges that we face as leaders. And I said, I would love to hear a podcast or a webcast that focuses on this. All of the webcasts and the podcasts that I listen to talks about leadership in a very kind of high academic, almost non-tangible strategic way. And I'm like, what about the everyday leadership? What about the everyday challenges that we deal with as managers? And I thought that's really what I wanted to focus Tackle Tuesdays on. And if you fast forward up to like almost a year later, so you and I are having a conversation about some of the challenges you're dealing with now, because you are new to AI Financial. You were just in the midst of getting a good grip and understanding of your role, your duties, your responsibilities, and who your team was. Then COVID hit, and you had to work remotely, and everybody had to transition to a remote working culture. And already being a new manager and leading a new team is challenging in of itself, never mind having to do it during COVID. And so I thought I need to have you on the show because the people that I've been speaking to are struggling with many of the same things that you were talking about. And you have some good strategies that you've implemented. And I thought this would really resonate with our viewers and listeners. So before we get into my series of questions for you, I thought we should start with a little bit around, like, tell us a little bit more about Industrial Alliance and what do you do there, and tell us a little bit about your team as well.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. And Industrial Alliance Financial Group is one of the largest insurance and wealth management groups in Canada and with operations in the US. And it's one of Canada's largest public companies and is listed on the TSX. We have locations across Canada, and it offers personal insurance coverage, investment solutions, group insurance, which is the division that I'm involved in, as well as group savings and retirement solutions. So basically my role is leading a team that handles all new business implementation and drafting policies, preparing systems for companies that decide to take on their group benefits with Industrial Alliance.
Okay.
So
And tell me a little bit about your team, because you were telling me about your team and it's quite a large team. So yeah, tell me a little bit about your team. Like how many direct reports do you have and how long were you managing them before COVID?
so I basically have 16 direct reports, and within the team, I have four roles actually. So I have my team leader who handles the day-to-day traffic, if you will, organizing the work, what needs to get done, strategizing, planning that we do together, of course, but she's more in the nitty-gritty. I have my implementation specialists that basically are an equivalent to a project manager that handles all the new groups that come in and really ensures that the transition from a previous carryover to us is smooth and easy. And then the two other roles are basically our policy drafters that prepare all the booklets, contracts, and our analysts that do all the coding in the system to prepare it for payments of claims um, in regards to the group benefits that have been chosen.
Now
So
you
that's
mentioned you have a project manager, team lead, but still, all of everybody on your team directly reports to you. So you are responsible for their performance management, appraisals,
yes,
ensuring that they have what they need.
that's right.
Okay. So, okay, how long when did you start with IA Financial?
I started on the 10th of February, and then we were all basically confined to work from home on the 16th of March,
So literally, well, like 4 weeks, really. A
basically.
solid month that you were there with them. Okay.
Yes, physically,
So,
yes.
okay. Uh, very interesting. So, what, okay. How are you developing relationships with them prior to COVID? When you were actually, because I assume you guys didn't, we'll talk about whether you guys had a remote working culture beforehand, but let's just start with, yeah, how are you developing relationships with beforehand? Like, what was your approach as a new manager with that team and that company?
Well, I mean, initially, it's just kind of giving them a background of who I was, what experience I come with, just to reassure them that I do have a certain level of knowledge with regards to their reality and their day to day. One of the first things I sent off was just a sort of an email to the team, again, just letting them know, hi, I'm new. I'm here to get to know you. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. I want to better understand what your reality is, and really just giving them a vision of what my goal was, and that's really to be there for them, be an advocate when needed, support them, and see how we can get improvements in. But just first and foremost, to understand who they are, what their reality is, and what I can do to support them in that regard.
Okay, and how can you use that approach? Because I've seen managers take a different approach as well, kind of come in already with preset ideas of what they want to do and how they want to do it. But you took a very different approach. You kind of went in easy to get a sense of the landscape. How can you use that approach versus kind of like I'm coming in and
Well,
this I want to do A, B, C, D,
yeah, well, one, I mean, who am I to do that first and foremost, especially that I'm someone that's coming in from the outside, right? So, I won't really have much credibility if I decide to do that, come in and bulldoze, because right away their impression will be, okay, this is a person, who does she think she is, type of thing. So it doesn't build trust. That's number one. And the reason why I did my approach in that sense was basically just to let them know, I'm here to listen to you. And I had heard during my onboarding that they had gone through a number of leaders in a short span of time. So they were feeling, a little um, that they didn't have the support. They didn't have someone that's there for them. They've gone through so many changes. So I really wanted to establish a sense of stability and make them understand that I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to learn. I'm here to support you. And that way we can build a sense of trust and uh, um, an environment where they can exchange and really let me know what they need. So
Yeah, you
that's,
said something I think is really important, stability.
yeah.
I've been a team member and managed new teams that experience that, like a turnover of leadership, to the
Mhm.
point where blatantly they would say things to me like, "I'll outlive you." you won't be here long enough, you
Right,
know?
right.
So why should I change what I do? Because I'll outlive you. So, okay, I hear that the stability was lacking. So that was a good approach to take with them. Okay, so how did you feel like it was going pre-COVID in terms of developing those relationships? You said an email, I assume you're doing some face-to-face stuff too.
Oh yeah, no, I set up one-on-ones just to have that initial meet and greet, if you will. They have an opportunity to tell me who they are, what their experience is, just to get a better sense of, who my team was. Give them an opportunity to ask me any questions that they might have, and really establish a relationship, and let them know, what can I do for you? What are your expectations of me? And I think that was a little bit new for them. So it easily built a good foundation, and just, being very open with them, very transparent, and asking a lot of questions, and just sort of always explaining what my mindset was, what my ideas were, and how they would be involved to support that and build our team together.
Okay. And so as you were doing that, because our focus today is meetings, like nonstop meetings, especially in a
Mhm.
virtual world. How many meetings were you attending beforehand? Like, so I'm trying to get a sense of how did you balance your duties and task responsibilities, like a manager has to attend meetings, right? It's just a part of what we do, but also balancing that with your employees. So, what did your days look like and feel like and consist of in terms of your workload and balancing that with developing relationships with your employees before COVID hit?
Well, I mean, I think on average, I had anywhere between maybe 3 to 4 meetings, sometimes more on one day, less on the other. But I also had that opportunity that if I wanted to talk to someone, I could just walk over
Yeah.
and, do the shadowing that I had started as well with them. So it wasn't as intense. I had more time to myself, if you will.
Okay.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
that's.
guess shadowing is a really important aspect. I think I don't see a lot of managers doing that, actually just sitting and shadowing, but
Mhm.
explaining it in a way that makes the person feel comfortable and not like that they're
Yeah,
being,
it's not Big Brother.
took the words out of my mouth, right? Okay. So you're in your groove, you're 30 days in, sounds like you got a good groove going, you're developing some good relationships. COVID hits,
Mhm.
and now what happens? Explain that to us.
Well, I mean, it was a big change in the sense that it was on a full-time basis. Some of my team, we had a work from home environment, but it wasn't some people decided not to work from home at all. They preferred being in the office. Others would work maybe 2 days a week. That was sort of the maximum number of days someone would work from home. And now we all find ourselves basically at home as of Monday. And so have to set up people that might not have the equipment, ensure that they all have what they need. How is their environment? Is it conducive to being at home full time? And so there was a period of adaptation to basically having full contact with team members to virtual, or no physical contact at all, and getting them used to that idea that we're home full time now for the foreseeable future. So,
Yeah. And how did you maintain relationship building with them? So okay, wait. So you said you had manageable amount of meetings and things like that. What did your calendar look like after COVID?
like a Tetris board, for those who know what Tetris is, I'm dating myself, but yeah, it's basically back to back to back. I mean, the only time that I had any spare time, if you will, it was lunchtime, and I blocked it out to make sure of that. So,
Well, like right now you're in Montreal, so it's lunchtime there. And as we
yeah,
were getting ready to go live, you're saying, I'm already getting emails. People need responses, regardless if it's lunch, they need you, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, what has contributed? Because I've been hearing people say, oh my God, I was speaking to another colleague. She said as early as 7:30, her meetings start and they go to like 6:30. Like what has contributed to the increase of meetings?
Well, I think at the beginning it was just more to ensure nobody's losing sight of people's mental status, making sure that they're set up, not losing touch with anyone. So we're like, okay, if we can't see each other, we have to make sure that we can at least come together, do touch points, and just ensure that, you know, we're falling into a more smooth flow. And, you know, the fact that we're all at home, we just want to make sure everyone's okay. So that's really what contributed at the very beginning to have them back to back and so frequently, because, all right, everyone's at home. It's the perfect opportunity. We can do this, we can talk about that. So, you know, it was new. So we're taking advantage of, okay, we don't have to worry about finding a meeting room. We'll just book it online and go.
Ah, I see. Okay. So yeah, can you
Yeah.
talk about opportunities? Because yeah, I don't want always to be like, challenges. There are opportunities that
Mhm.
come being more remote. And like you said, one of them was we didn't have to try and find, a meeting room. We were able to just meet. So what were some of the opportunities that came? Before we get into the challenges, what were some of the opportunities that came from moving to a remote culture, if you will?
Well, I think the ability to overcome the challenge of space and location, because we have our sister teams that are in Toronto. So it's, you know, we don't have to worry about traveling. So we just book uh, a virtual meeting. We can discuss our improvement, process improvement opportunities, the projects, the A3s that were in plans, but were always difficult to sort of organize and get done because physical lack of time, etc. So all of that basically went to the side, and we had the opportunity to start focusing on those projects and what we wanted to implement.
Okay. So yeah, so a lot of the stuff that were just like to do that you could never get to, now you had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what were some of the challenges that came with that? Besides the fact that your calendar looked like a Tetris game.
Finding time to do my work, because remember, I'm still in a learning curve as well, right? So I'm still getting familiar with the business, trying to, you know, meet internal partners. And I mean, there were the opportunities to meet them virtually, so that helped, but it's just sort of trying to find time where I need to get my objectives done, the team's objectives, amongst everything else that's going on, and making sure that the team is okay and that they have what they need, and ensuring that I'm keeping my one-on-ones and, you know, making myself available when they need them. So it's a balancing act.
So before we get into the strategies, I remember when we were talking last week about, we were prepping for today's show, and you did say something that I thought was intriguing, because like one of the things I talk a lot about, or I try to work with my clients on improving, is resiliency and agility. And you felt like one of the opportunities that came from this was people developed a level of resilience and agility that you think maybe like COVID actually contributed to that. It was a benefit that came out of that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, it gave us the opportunity to sort of connect in another way where we might not have had that possibility before. It's really overcoming a sense of, okay, this person's not available because we don't see them, but you know, we're able to get come together, create spaces. It kind of encouraged another dynamic and a synergy between the team by keeping our scrums every morning, you know, sending them a little note every once in a while. Hey, how are you doing? I'm here. Do you need anything? Just keeping that constant contact to say, I'm here if you need something. And then to make it fun, basically just to encourage that sense of um, camaraderie and connection, was creating little virtual happy hours and stuff like that. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, so okay, like we're getting into a bit of the strategy. So
Mm.
what are the strategies that you've implemented to be able to still develop relationships with your team remotely, considering you're new, you're still getting to know them. You still need
Mhm,
to understand what your job is. That's new too,
mhm.
And so what are some of the strategies that you're implementing to help you lead through this time?
Well, when I have control over booking a meeting, aside from seeing who's available, I try to give myself at least a buffer in between. So, you know, does it really have to be an hour? Can I put it down to 45 minutes? And that way I have a 15-minute buffer to avoid having them back to back to back. I think that helps a lot. And it's just sort of speaking about it with my colleagues, this kind of plant the seed so that they kind of do that as well, you know, so that we all sort of get into this same type of flow of respecting each other's time. Um, Booking time for myself in my calendar, that's very important because, you know, the day escapes you very quickly. So at least if I have a meeting booked for myself, then it sort of encourages me being able to actually get that done. And if somebody needs to talk to me, well, I mean, it's not as if I'm in an actual meeting. I can put what I'm doing aside and get to what they need or what their question is, or they just need to vent type of thing.
Right. I love the idea of scheduling a meeting for yourself. It's a working meeting because otherwise you're right, the day will escape from you. Do you feel like you can honor those meetings for yourself more often than not?
I'm getting better at it.
Okay. What gets in the way from allowing you to honor that for yourself? Is it people connecting with you say, I need you, Lydia. I need a question answered or something like that?
Yeah, there is that as well. Or, you're getting an invite and nobody else can sort of move it. So you're like, okay, so I'll make the compromise. But I think now that we're a few months in, people have sort of settled, have become accustomed to the environment, and are sort of now taking a step back saying, okay, we don't always have to be talking. We don't always have to schedule something. We can sort of let it and get back into a new normal, if you will. So things are slowly starting to taper down, knowing that we're here at home for a while. So that sense of urgency, if you will, has kind of subsided. So things are
Yeah,
getting
dissipated.
better.
Yeah, because you said you didn't have a remote working culture before, so it was a learning curve
Mm,
for everybody to figure it out and understand kind of like what the protocols and what's the word I'm looking for? But ways to behave in a remote
right.
culture, like in terms of respecting people's time, doing 15-minute buffers. Just because it's
That's it.
virtual doesn't mean you can have back to back. People got to use the restroom. People have to have a bio break. People need
That's
to
it.
get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
those
You
things
know?
are important, right? Okay.
Mm,
Now, and do you ever say no to a meeting? Because that's another thing I think that we need to really be tight on and understand around when you have a meeting.
yeah.
What I'm not going to give away the punchline. I'm going to ask you to answer the question. Do you ever say no to a meeting? And if so,
Yes.
okay, well, what's the criteria that you use to either accept or decline a meeting?
Well, first, I mean, is better understanding what the subject is. Do I really need to be there? Can I delegate it to maybe my team leader or someone else on the team? That's number one. If I don't need to be there, then I mean, more often than not, there's a summary that's sent off, so I can still be aware of the information that was discussed without necessarily having to be part of it. So that's one thing I'm looking at. But and that I do. So yeah, and if I don't need to be there, I won't. I think that's the main tactic that I use when I say no, basically.
Yeah, I look at things like, is there an agenda? Are
Yeah,
there time limits assigned to the different items of the agenda? Is there an opportunity for us to, like, is it a strategic meeting, or do we get to
right.
share issues we're dealing with? And is there time in the meeting to discuss those issues and brainstorm strategies to resolve them? Or is it a sharing circle? The sharing circles, I used to attend a lot of sharing circles. We were about 15 to 20 people in this meeting, and it was a
Hmm.
sharing circle. And I'm like, show and tell sharing circle I did in K to 6. As an adult, I'd like to avoid them. Send me information through an email. So unless it's strategic and we're going to get some work done, I mean, those are meetings I would rather not attend, especially if like you said, my calendar looks like a Tetris board.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that I want to talk about, because, is mental health. I've been talking to various mental health practitioners and psychologists, and they've been talking about kind of like the impacts, the long-term impacts COVID's going to have on employee mental health, and how we may not, as individuals, we may not always be aware of, oh, wait a second, this is kind of like something that I'm dealing with from COVID and I'm not realizing it. But even as a leader, you have to be in tune with your employees' mental health, but your own as well. We don't talk a lot about that. So obviously feeling like you're pulled in many directions, especially as a manager in a new company. Like that is stressful. I have done that. I've gone to a new company. I was a manager. It was like, there's your desk. There's your 100-page onboarding binder. I hope to see you in 2 weeks because I'm busy too as your boss. So good luck. It's like, you feel like you're set up to fail. So there's a lot going on for you. And I think for a lot of new managers, or any like managers in general, especially during this time, what are some of the strategies you're implementing to manage your own mental health and that of your team members?
I mean, I'm still doing my workouts. My trainer has thankfully converted over to Zoom workouts, so I'm doing those virtually. So that's very important. That enables me to decompress and just sort of, stay fit. But it also is a way to keep my mental health fit as well. Um, it's just basically ensuring to take time for myself, deconnecting as much as I can, um, and just sort of listening to myself. And with regards to my team, it's, the beauty of these virtual meetings is that I ask everyone to put their cameras on so I can see them. And, by power of observation, can I tell something they might be a little off or whatever? And then just keeping that, channel of communication saying, is everything okay? You didn't, do you need to talk, whatever. So just keeping that sense of you have a safe space with me to open up, and if something's going on, what can we do to help, or what do you need as support? And I must say the company has been excellent in providing resources, providing conferences, talking about mental health that the employees have found very beneficial. So, there is a good balance in ensuring people take time off. It's important, you know, even if they can't go anywhere technically, at least taking time off. Take a vacation, take a day off. You're tired, that's fine. You need to deconnect completely.
Yeah, and I think as leaders, we have to be role modeling that, because if we're running ourselves ragged and getting close to burnout, like what are we role modeling to our team?
Yeah.
That's the way to behave, because I behave like that. In many ways,
Hmm.
you're letting them know you expect them to behave that way.
Yeah,
So you're role modeling, that to them, like not sending a slew of emails evenings and weekends is important, right?
no, absolutely.
And how are you able to be vulnerable with them and open with them about, you know, your mental health?
For sure, for sure. And I think that's important, because if I'm not sharing, how can I expect them to do the same and feel that they can open up to me? So I'm very open, I'm very honest with them. So I talk about what I'm going through, because they need to be aware as well. We're a team, whether, I'm their leader, it doesn't matter. We're all equals in this. And it's important to practice what I preach, basically. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
And I mean, one of the things that I heard you talk a lot about too is we were talking about when do you get your work done? What it
Hmm.
sounded like to me, right from when you started, even pre-COVID, was your work, the way you define your work is, yeah, you have your work, you have your meetings, you got your emails, you got your paperwork that you need to do. But a big portion of your work is your team.
Hmm.
It's managing and supporting your team. Like you said, you sit and you strategize with your team lead. You work closely with the project manager to ensure they have what they need to do their job. And you're there with your employees to ensure how's their mental health? Do they have what they need? Do they need a break? So a big portion, the way you define what your job is. So when we say meetings, 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 when you get your work done, sounds like a big part of your work is scheduling meetings and one-on-ones with your employees. See
Definitely.
how they are, how if they have what they need. Last week we had Carmen Mason. She's a professional coach, and we really talked about how to have courageous conversations. And and we talked about the power of the one-on-one. You can't have conversations with people if, as a leader, you're not scheduling
Hmm.
one-on-ones with your people. And it still surprises me, Lydia. There are a lot of companies that don't do that. They don't have a regular flow of communication between supervisors and employees, because I
Hmm.
don't think supervisors understand that their job, their work entails that connection with their people. They still
Yeah.
see themselves as producers. I call them widget makers, not to
Yeah.
minimize what they do, but they produce stuff, whereas they're not leading. And it's really, as a manager, you're a leader. And so when we say when you get your work, when do you get your work done, you almost have to redefine and examine, what is my role as a leader? What
Yeah.
am I meant to do versus them? And how do I support them to do what they need to do? And that is literally through meetings in many ways, but it's
Yeah.
how you have that conversation with them. So that's what I'm hearing you say, is that's how you get your work done, because your work is about ensuring that you're there for them, but you still are creative in many ways in terms of being, critically examining whether you need to go to a meeting or not, being comfortable to say maybe no, right? You have that
Hmm.
criteria, but also scheduling time in your calendar to say, this is my work, this is when I need to get work done, and trying your best to honor that. is we're at the end of the 30-minute of our time, but is there anything else that you wanted to share in terms of aha moments, things that you've learned, something that would be really good for our viewers and listeners to, something, a takeaway, or like you've given a lot of takeaways, but anything else that you wanted to share with them?
Um, I think what made a success, if you will, or what really sped up the process of building that trust is, really going in and demonstrating, walk the talk, but sharing my vision in the sense that I'm here for you. I think that's the main point that really helped build, a relationship with the team in such a short span of time. It's really not coming in as a bulldozer, but hey, I'm here to learn. You're going to help me learn that. And in turn, that's how I'm going to be able to support you because I'm here for you, not the other way around.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to share with anybody about IA Financial, maybe something that they're doing right now that would be important to share with people, how they can get in contact with IA Financial if they're looking for group benefits and things like that?
Well, I mean, we have a great website. So, I mean, if there are advisors out there that are looking to, help their clients find a new carrier, I mean, we're up and running. COVID hasn't impacted us in any way whatsoever with regards to our operations, which is fantastic. The company has really made strides in getting us what we need, which is really appreciated. So yeah, I mean, we're the ones to call on.
Perfect. And you're also an artist. There are two paintings
Oh,
behind you that you have created. The one on, not the one in the middle, but the one on the left and right of you, correct?
well,
Not,
yeah,
and are you selling your paintings now too? Are you making those available to the masses?
they are available. The only problem is with COVID, they can't really come and see them in person. So, but yes, I mean, they are available for sale for those that are interested. So,
How do they get in contact with you if they want to see
uh,
it?
well, through Facebook,
Lydia
there's,
Pagonis?
yeah, Lydia Pagonis. They can find me there. I have a public page with some of my pieces that anyone basically can go in and look, and they can always just direct message me if they are interested.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for being a guest on my Tackle Tuesday. I appreciate it so much. With the insight and the leadership, I've always admired your leadership style so much. And I think we
Thank
come
you.
from a good family of leaders. And so I really appreciate you taking the time because I know what your calendar looks like. So thank you.
It's
I
my
just want
pleasure.
Oh, good. I just want to let everybody know what we're going to be focusing on next week. Next week, I have Dennis Joubinville. He is the branch manager of labor relations with the city of Edmonton. His team really oversaw a lot of the layoffs that happened with the city of Edmonton. And we're going to talk about layoffs and employee engagement. Can the two coexist? And some of the things we're going to discuss is how do you maintain employee engagement when somebody gets laid off, hoping they will return to work one day in the future? And how do you maintain engagement with employees that are still there, who have lost their colleagues, right? So that will be the focus of our Tackle Tuesday next week. So I hope to see you next week. Have a great week, everybody, and have a good rest of the day.